Hi everyone, in this video today I'm going to take you through the parts of our new Janome sewing machines. So let's start with the side. So on the side here we have a small electrical port that has two kind of holes. That is for the main power, which fits in there. We also have a little portal here, which is where you plug in the foot pedal. So that plugs in on the side. We then have a switch above which turns the machine on or off. This is the hand wheel, and the hand wheel, unlike our old sewing machines, is probably not going to be used very much by you, as this machine is electronic now, and with the touch of a button we can get everything we need the machine to do without actually having to touch the hand wheel. When we have a look at the front of our sewing machine, so up the top here we have what is known as the spool pin. So this is where the cotton or the reel of cotton sits on. We have a little stopper, a little plastic stopper that sits on the top, and once you've put your thread on, you can put that stopper in place to hold the reel of cotton up the top. If we come across, this over here is where we thread up a bobbin, the little bobbin pin, and when we click to the side, it disengages the screen, and that is how we thread a bobbin with the colour thread that we are using for the project. When we come down to the front here, we have lots of different buttons on the front of our machine. So let's start over here at the screen. The main two buttons that you are going to use is this button here, which is for a straight stitch, and the button next to it, which is for a zigzag stitch. So if you press this button, it shortcuts and puts in all of the settings that you need to do a straight stitch. If you press the zigzag button, it changes all of the length and width on the screen, and that is the general stitch for zigzag and the settings. If we are looking to adjust the stitch length, so making our stitches longer, it would be these plus and negative buttons here on the far right side. So the furthermost plus and negative buttons. And as you can see, as I'm clicking it, the stitch length is going up and up. When you hear this button, that means it's reached its max. To change the stitch width, so width is only applicable when you are doing a zigzag stitch, as a straight stitch is just straight, there is no width. It becomes this second plus and negative button closer to the left-hand side. Okay, and just like before, we can change it plus or negative. Now, if we just want to go back to the normal generic settings that the machine already has, we can simply press our two shortcut buttons. These are going to be the most important buttons and the ones that you're going to use all the time. As you can also see, we have many pictures of different stitches down the bottom here. For some of you, you might get some extra time to experiment with some of these different stitches, okay? And that is fine. It's with these two arrowed buttons that you can move up and change the different stitches that you are doing. Make sure you keep an eye on what is said on the screen, because the screen gives you lots of important information. The screen tells us on the side here that our foot pedal is plugged in. It tells us that the presser foot we need to be using is the letter A. However, when we change and do a different stitch, it's now telling us it needs to be letter C. So before you go ahead and change and have a go at any of these and experiment, make sure that you're reading what the screen is telling you to do. When we look across here, this is our speed dial. Okay, so this allows the machine to either stitch at a really slow pace, a medium pace, or a fast pace. And that is partially controlled by your foot pedal as well. If you have it on really slow, no matter how hard you push down your foot pedal, it's still going to go slow. Okay, so start off like that, and then as you progress and get more confident, feel free to move up or down as you like. When we look across, we have a scissor button. This button, when you have finished sewing and you are ready to stop and pull the fabric out, by simply pressing this button, it'll make a sound and it will cut both of the threads. You'll then be able to lift the presser foot and pull out the fabric. This button here changes the position of the needle. It's an arrow up and an arrow down. So as you can see, right now the arrow is up and our needle is up, but by pressing this button, the needle goes down into the sewing machine. So if you are needing to thread the machine and you're missing step number 4 up here, it's just a simple press of the button and up it pops. This button here is the knot feature. So instead of doing a reverse stitch to begin or end one of your stitches, you can press the knot button here and the machine will make a nice small knot to finish off the stitch so that it's not going to come unthreaded. This is really important, especially for those projects that use a fine fabric and you don't want to see a big reverse stitch. When we come down to the front here, this button here is our reverse button. Now, unlike all these other buttons, you just need to press them once and the function will occur. However, with this button, you actually need to hold it down. So if you want to reverse for 3 seconds, you need to hold the button down for 3 seconds, as well as having your foot on the foot pedal. We also have a start and stop button. This button is not going to be used by you, as you are going to be using the foot pedal to control the sewing. However, for some people that will not use the foot pedal, you are able to start and stop sewing with this button. This won't happen for us. We are all using the foot pedal. Now, as you can see, it might be hard for some of you to see, we have a little black lever at the back here. And by simply flicking this up and by flicking it down, it lifts up our presser foot. Now, if we have a look at all the features that are down the bottom here, you'll be able to see that we have a presser foot, we have our needle, we have a plate down here that has lots of different measurements on there. So each of the lines are different measurements, and that helps you to sew straight without doing all of the measuring on your project first. This here is our bobbin housing, and this is an important part because unlike our old machines, these new machines, the bobbin loads from the top rather than from a little trapdoor at the front. There is a black button on the side here and there's an arrow pointing this way. So all you need to do is pull the arrow and up pops the little plastic tab. In here is where the bobbin sits. So the bobbin sits in a letter P, so the thread hangs down here and the bobbin sits in there. We then, underneath, hook it around and cut it. That's how simple it is to thread this bobbin, and then the case goes back on and clicks into place. Just a note that when it comes time to pack up the machine, please make sure that we are switching off the switch on the side. We are turning off the power point and we're unplugging all of the cords. We then have a case. So please make sure that the case is placed on top of the sewing machine. The foot pedal sits on the side like this with the cord at the back. All of the cords just sit at the back, and it's really important to always triple check that the little stopper, the little plastic stopper on your spool pin is back in place. I hope that this video has helped you learn the different parts of our new sewing machines. It's a lot easier to use. Just make sure that if you're hearing the machine beeping at you, something must be wrong. So don't keep pressing 1,000 buttons, but it's definitely useful to have a go with the scissors and have a go doing a knot and reverse. Use the features that we have and enjoy the machine.